So the Department of Early Education and Care. This budget also includes significant funding from the Fair Share Amendment that was passed by voters in 2022. These investments for early education and care include $15 million for capital grant improvements to expand capacity and safety improvements in programs. We anticipate $7.5 million will be available to support the Family Child Care Investment Program. So with all that in mind, with the budget, and the fact that we have not posted an application yet, we're still mulling over ideas for how to move forward with an opportunity for FCCs. And some of those ideas for fund use include thinking about support needed by FCCs to sustain and expand capacity. We know that there's not enough support available for right now for long-term assistance. We know that assistance with starting up an FCC and obtaining EEC license can be tough to come by at times. And we also know that assistance with establishing business practice management norms could also be helpful. Another idea is to support loan offerings to support additional home ownership. Right now, what we're working on is gathering more information about the percentage of FCC providers that actually own or have a mortgage to their property. And we also have a lack of clarity on the greatest impact that we could have. And that could include, a potential support for mortgage payments, closing costs, or down payments. We're thinking about what the long-term sustainability would look like for loan offerings. And we're thinking about the eligibility guidelines. The third idea that we have for potential fund use is physical site improvements. This would be small capital projects that could include everything from replacing security systems, windows, fencing, improving landscaping, anything basically that would support expansion of the FCC. But this would mean that there would be a large number of very small projects happening across the state. And right now, there isn't a mechanism that's readily available to, support that project, those projects. We're also concerned about access to contractors to make sure we have high quality contractors completing the work right the first time. And we're also wondering, hoping to get feedback about eligibility guidelines. So just so everyone knows, our original intent was to just have a very light conversation with the folks who decided to attend. But as many of you can tell, there are 500 participants this evening at this session. So a sort of open conversation is not really going to work for this many people. So what we're planning on doing today is I'm going to read the ideas for fund use. And what we're asking for each of you to do is participate in a poll and give us your immediate feedback by selecting responses and giving written feedback as well. So the first poll you're going to see is based on this idea about support needed by FCCs to sustain and expand capacity. We'd like to know what are the most pressing needs, whether that's business training, access to capital, supports around licensure, or other. What types of supports are currently available? We are aware of a number of supports, but maybe there are things that you could make us aware of about different kinds of supports that are already being utilized by FCCs, whether it's online information, licensing assistance from EEC licensors, or FCC system support. And then how should we consider prioritizing supports to best sustain and expand capacity statewide? So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we're going to launch the poll. So, and what we're going to do once the poll is launched, we're going to give 5 minutes of uninterrupted time to complete the poll. Sarah, I'm sorry, I can't see you on my screen. Hoping you can.
You're fine, Jose.
Okay.
Which one would you like me to launch? Do you want me to start with physical site improvements?
The one I just read regarding general supports.
So it's general support. Okay, I hope, so I have physical site improvements, loan offerings, or support needed. So do the
Support
last one.
needed, sorry, support needed, my apologies.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so launching the poll. So I'll read the questions as well to support interpretation. The first question is, what are the most pressing needs for FCCs? It's a single choice. Options include business training, access to capital, supports around licensure, and other. The second question is, what types of supports are currently available? The options are online information, licensing assistance from EEC licensors, family child care system support, or other. And then the third question is, how should we consider prioritizing supports to best sustain and expand capacity statewide? So there's a combination of kind of multiple choice, but also we invite all of your recommendations. So please, if you're having trouble engaging in the poll, please put your responses in the chat. And we'll give you 5 minutes.
¿Puedes repetir, por favor, qué vamos a poner en el chat?
Perdón, pero las preguntas, yo no la escuché. Yo nada más escuché.
Sarah,
Solo
yes,
salió la primera, no más.
Sure. Sarah, if you don't mind, you mind reading the questions again? And
¿Podría tirar el enlace otra vez?
Sure. Yeah, so I will repeat the questions.
El enlace, por favor, para responder las preguntas.
If you cannot see the poll, you can put your responses in the chat. So you can tell us in the chat if you cannot see the polls. Okay, the first question is, what are the most pressing needs for family childcare? Options include business training, access to capital, supports around licensure, or other. The second question is, what types of supports are currently available? Online information is an option, licensing assistance from EEC licensors, family child care system support, or other. And the third question is, how should we consider prioritizing supports to best sustain and expand capacity of family child care statewide?
Entonces ahí mismo la encuesta que sale en el chat, nosotros vamos cliqueando lo que escogemos para la encuesta.
No veo.
A mí no me sale.
Ya ustedes no la ven porque ya él la puso en la pantalla y la quitó.
No, a mí
Ya.
me sale en la pantalla.
Ya la quitaron.
Cuando él la puso, yo pude llenar alguna y le di a sumir y se fue, pero ya yo no encuentro eso por parte tampoco.
The poll has not been closed yet, so
No la
it should,
encuentro.
it should just pop up on your window. There may be other issues that you're experiencing that unfortunately I think we won't be able to resolve. But again, if you heard the questions, you can also simply submit responses in the chat. You don't necessarily have to use the poll.
Can you explain the last question on the poll? Like, I don't understand specifically what it's asking.
You're referring to question 3?
In the poll, yes. It's leaving a comment box, so.
Sure, yeah. How long is it? Right, so So it says, how should we consider
Una
prioritizing
pregunta.
supports
Tengo una pregunta.
to best sustain and expand capacity statewide? Sorry, I'm gonna answer this person's question. I'll try to answer your question in a moment. So, I mean, this is supposed to be sort of an open interpretation of what kinds of supports you think that the EEC should be providing through this capital grant funding. If there's a focus that you think that we have not presented, that you would like to see, that's where this response should go.
Okay, thank you.
Tengo una pregunta, por favor.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hello.
See, yeah, no, I hear you. Sorry, my Spanish is not very good. So
María, la estamos escuchando.
Ok. ¿Con motivo de qué todo esto?
Perdón. ¿Puede repetir su pregunta, por favor, María?
Mi pregunta es,
Disculpa, tengo una...
déjame contestar, mamita, sí, dame un chancecito.
Claro
¿Con
que sí,
motivo
María.
de qué es todo esto que EEC está haciendo? ¿Con motivo de qué? Por favor, explíquenme.
El motivo, señora, primero que nada, ellos quieren dar un gran, hay harto dinero en el medio y ellos están buscando la mejor forma de poder
Ok.
ayudarnos a nosotros. Entonces ellos
Ok.
nos están preguntando, ¿qué es lo que necesitamos? Si usted, por ejemplo, si usted tiene su Family Child Care, ¿qué es lo que usted necesita? Si usted va a expandir su daycare, por ejemplo, va a tener más niños, usted necesita asistente, ¿cierto? Entonces, necesita asistente, necesita educación, usted tiene que poner ahí y ahí ellos le dan una alternativa. Hay 4 alternativas y usted piense cuál es la mejor.
Ok.
En las 3 preguntas y en la última, ¿cómo usted piensa que que nosotros deberíamos tener? Por ejemplo, si más dinero, si más educación, si tener una jubilación digna, o sea, todo
Claro,
esto un
jubilación
soporte.
de todo.
Ya,
Necesitamos
todo
de todo.
eso, al final usted tiene que poner lo que piensa.
Sí,
Usted
está
tiene
bien.
que escribirlo, tipearlo con su teléfono o en el computador. Y en
Ok.
las dos primeras, usted tiene que elegir una de las alternativas. Entonces ellos ahí van a decidir.
Ok. Otra
¿Entendieron?
cosa. Sí, gracias, mi hermana. Oye,
No,
otra
problema.
cosa. ¿Las asistentes pueden participar?
Oh my God.
Perdón un segundo.
Dejemos las preguntas para el final.
Sí, bueno, disculpen por favor. En este momento lo que estamos haciendo es colocando una información y queremos que ustedes nos vayan respondiendo, nos vayan dando la información por medio del poll. Si ustedes no pueden acceder.
Excuse me.
Sí, disculpen por favor un segundo. ¿Nos está escuchando? Sarah, can you hear me, José?
Why
Yes, I
is
can-
everything in Spanish? I thought I was in a
we can hear you. Sorry, everyone. It seems like some folks have not gone to the translated option. And so we're just speaking to some of the folks who only speak Spanish so we can explain what's going on. So if you give us a moment, Janet's going to explain in a little detail, and then we'll revert back to to English.
Entonces, esto es un gran que todavía no sabemos qué hay ni cómo se va a distribuir. Entonces, la idea es que Family Child Care Educadores, los Family Child Care Educadores nos estén dando información de cómo ustedes creen que se puede implementar este dinero. ¿Ok? Vamos a tener 3 sesiones donde nos van a estar explicando paso por paso. Y al final también se va a compartir la presentación con ustedes por correo electrónico.
All right. So just to let everyone know, we're up to 9 minutes on this poll, so we're a little past time. It looks like many people have already submitted responses.
Para dejar Charlie movemos los carros.
So I think what I'd like to do at this point, we're going to close this poll. If you didn't finish or you feel like you wanted to give more commentary, please go ahead and just put it in the chat. and it'll be recorded for the session.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. It looks like 75% of people have responded. So I'm gonna end the poll.
Great.
And now I'm going to share results with everybody so you'll be able to see. Can you see the results? Yeah. So when asked about the most pressing needs for FCCs, it looks like access to capital stood out as a pressing need. And in thinking about the types of supports that are currently available, it looks like there's, online information available. FCCs are getting assistance from licensors as well as family child care system support, and also other avenues. And then it looks like there were quite a few responses that were submitted as long form. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go back to our sharing the presentation, and we'll move on to the next section. The next idea, again, was about loan offerings to support home ownership. The questions are, where should funding be focused for home ownership support, whether that's deposits, down payments, mortgage repayment, or closing costs? Who are the potential partners EEC should work with to support FCCs? That could be in terms of application preparation, loan education, or just strictly translation. What training, technical assistance, or other support is needed for FCCs, whether that's access to help desk, regular check-ins with staff, or other. And what are other short and long-term supports needed for program fidelity? So again, I'm going to stop sharing. And just as a reminder, for those of you who are hearing my voice right now but need language translation, if you click on the globe on the bottom part of your screen, you can hear the Spanish or Portuguese translators as we're speaking. Sarah, would you mind launching the second poll, please?
Sure.
So again, we're going to read the questions, and then we're going to give 5 minutes to respond to the poll.
Okay. So these questions are around loan offerings to support home ownership. The first question is, where should funding be focused for home ownership support? One of the options is deposits. The next is down payments, mortgage repayment, and closing costs. The second question is, who are potential partners EEC should work with to support FCCs? Options include application preparation, loan education, translation, or other. The third question is, what training, technical assistance, or other support is needed for FCCs? Options include access to help desk, regular check-ins, or other. And then the fourth and final question is, what are the short and long-term supports needed for program fidelity? I'm going to pause and then I'll say those again in a moment. So the questions that we have in this poll are around loan offerings to support home ownership. The first question is, where should funding be focused for home ownership support? Choices include deposits, down payments, mortgage repayment, or closing costs. The second question is, who are potential partners EEC should work with to support FCCs? The first option is application preparation, loan education, translation, or other recommendations. And then the third question is, what training, technical assistance, or other support is needed for FCCs? The first choice is access to help desk. Second is regular check-ins or other. And the fourth and final question is, what are the short and long-term supports needed for program fidelity? And again, you can put your responses to any of these questions in the chat if you're having trouble with the poll. Jose, there's still a little bit of action happening in the poll, so I'm going to leave it open for maybe a minute.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think we can leave it open a little bit longer.
I'm going to end the poll. We have about 75% of people that have responded. Okay, and I'm also going to share the results. Can everybody see the results? Yep, okay. So it looks like in terms of where funding should be focused for home ownership support, a lot of responses around mortgage repayment, and then some for down payments, deposits, and closing costs. In terms of who are potential partners that EEC should work with to support family childcare, in this type of grant program, application preparation and loan education came up as popular responses. What training, technical assistance, or other support is needed for family childcare? Access to help desk comes up a lot, regular check-ins, and then some other recommendations that were provided. And then again, in terms of what are the short-term and long-term supports needed for program fidelity, it looks like we received quite a few responses in the form.
Great, this is really great feedback. Thank you everyone for participating. Sarah, I think I'll close this out and I'll reshare the PowerPoint and continue on with our final poll for this evening. Okay, and so the last idea about the for potential fund use is about physical site improvements. Oh, I'm sorry. What should be included as part of eligible fund use? You know, and what the eligible fund use could mean are security improvements, access to enrollment software, physical installations like fencing and doorways and windows being placed in the home, or even improving air conditioning. We're wondering what should the range of funding be for FCC projects or the dollars per site. So in the poll, you'll see a number of various dollar ranges for how much we think should be offered to FCCs to improve their physical space. And what are the short and long-term administrative training supports needed to maintain program fidelity, whether that's access to a help desk or regular check-ins with support staff, and then who you think are potential partners that EEC should work with to support FCCs through physical site improvements. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to ask Sarah to launch the last poll for the evening.
Sure. Okay, I'm launching the poll now. So these questions are around recommendations around fund use for physical site improvements. The first question is, what should be included as part of eligible fund use? Ideas or options include security improvements, enrollment software, physical installation, air conditioning, or other. Second question is, what should the range of funding be for family childcare projects? So this is a question asking about the amount of funding per family childcare educator. The options range from $0 to $5,000 per site, $5,000 to $10,000, $10,000 to $15,000, $15,000 to $20,000, or another amount. The third question is, what are the short and long-term administrative and training supports needed to maintain program fidelity? Options are access to the help desk, regular check-ins with support staff, or other ideas that you might have. And then the fourth question is, who are potential partners EEC should work with to support family childcare educators in accessing these funds? And then I'll repeat the questions again in just a minute. So these poll questions are around physical site improvements. and recommendations about how EEC might grant capital grant funding for family childcare. The first question is, what should be included as part of eligible fund use? Options include security improvements, or enrollment software, or physical installation, or air conditioning, or other. The second question is, what should the range of funding be for family childcare projects? So this is the amount of funding per family childcare educator, per family childcare program. Options are up to $5,000, $5,000 to $10,000, or $10,000 to $15,000, $15,000 to $20,000, or other. The third question is, what are the short and long-term administrative and training supports needed to maintain program fidelity? The first choice is access to help desk. The second is regular check-ins with support staff. And the third option is other. And then the fourth question is, who are potential partners EEC should work with to support FCCs, so to support family childcare? And this is an option for you to answer however you would like, and just enter text. And if you're having trouble accessing the poll or can't see the poll for some reason, you can also enter your recommendations in the chat as well. And these are questions around eligible fund use for physical site improvements, including the amount of funding that should be provided, and the types of supports that would be needed to access and implement these funds, as well as partners that EEC should work with to support this effort. I'm going to leave the poll open for probably another 30 seconds to a minute before we wrap it up. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and then share results. Can you all see the results on the screen? Yes, okay. So the question around what should be included as part of eligible fund use, physical Installation certainly stands out as a recommendation. What should the range of funding be for family childcare projects? It looks like quite a few responses for $15,000 to $20,000, as well as some other responses that we won't be able to see in the poll. In terms of the types of administrative and training support that might be needed, it sounds like access to a help desk or regular check-ins with support staff would be recommended. It looks like we also received some reactions to who potential partners EEC should work with are, and those will also be kind of in narrative form, so not included in the poll, so we can't see those at this moment. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the responses and then turn it back to you, Jose.
All right, great. So just to recap our info session today, we covered what the RFI was, and just as a reminder for everyone, there is no application for funding posted as of yet. This info session is just part of our effort to gather information about the direction we would like to go in for the anticipated funding. Your feedback today is going to be utilized to make a decision about where we think the priority should be for FCC capital funding. This information will be posted online via the Combis posting. So if you would like to if you have additional questions, if you have additional comments, you can go to the link that I just put in the chat to the Combis posting and submit. That is also where you would submit a formal response to our RFI using the FCC form. So as I mentioned earlier, when I began the info session, we've maxed out our session with 500 people plus throughout the period. So we won't be able to engage in a Q&A discussion. So what I will do though, I will leave the Zoom session open for the next 10 minutes, so 7:30. So if you have additional comments, questions, or thoughts that you'd like to share, you can put that in the chat right now. Otherwise, if you don't have any additional comments, thank you for attending and listening and bearing with us as we work through this evening. And just wanted to thank as well my colleagues who assisted me greatly and the translators for their support. But thank you all, and have a good evening.